So I'm watching the play-in tournament last night, and the second game last night, and sitting there with Coop, my 14-year-old boy. And he turns to me at one point during the game. He says, "Dad, have the Warriors always been good?" And I'm like, "Well, I'll tell you a story. In the 70s, they won a championship in the ABA. And there was a guy named Rick Barry. And interestingly enough, when later on, we're talking about free throws at the end of this game, and Rick Barry's name showed up on the screen as one of the great free throw shooters of all time. I'm like, there's Rick Barry I'm referring to.
Did you tell him how Rick shot those shots?
I did not tell him about underhanded.
You gotta share that with him.
And then I mentioned how there was a renaissance in the late 80s and early 90s featuring one of my favorite players of all time, Chris Mullin. It kind of got lost in him. Run TMC gets lost in a 14-year-old reference, to
Mitch and Chris.
Because it's a longer reference than just 14 years old. And then I yada yada it and said, and then Steph Curry showed up. It's how I shorthanded it.
I mean,
and then Steph Curry showed.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, who Steph Curry's first coach was in Golden State was Keith Smart.
Really?
Yes, who was there for a year after Don Nelson's second run there and before Mark Jackson took over. Whoa. And then we all know Steve Kerr showed up there. History lesson over, because I was just saying Curry showed up. Now, listen, when Curry made that 4-point play last night, after a large lead dissipated, and we'll talk about how the large lead came to be, but when Curry was running through, weaving through the Grizzlies defense, dribbling the ball through it, handling through it, and then he gets from one part of the court from the right 3-point arc, and he's now winding up on the opposite side of the court in the corner after a quick give and go with Kevon Looney. Looney. And then he launches the three and gets fouled. I audibly screamed. And the last time I did that in that room on that couch was during Rory McIlroy's remarkable Sunday. Very few people will get me to just scream. And then Curry on the floor after he's fouled looks at the fans sitting in the front row, and they're elated, just out of their minds elated. And he kind of looks at them like, did I just do that? Did you just see that? That's the look he gave them, a playful connection with the out of their skull elated Warriors fans. And I said to Suze, can you imagine what it must be like to root for Steph Curry? That he's your hometown hero. Could you imagine what that must feel like for Warrior fans who did live through the Al Attles Rick Barry championship season 2, the Run TMC years where there was nothing going on, and then after that before Curry showed up? Can you imagine what this must feel like for them? And I understand that, in this day and age, we kind of flip on players who win a lot despite how insanely likable they are because they keep winning, and that annoys you, and you have fatigue. In the same way, there's Mahomes, right? Mahomes is as close to anybody in the NFL is to Steph Curry, right? In terms of awesomeness and likability and winning and then doing things that are physically remarkable that few others have ever been able to do.
While looking like an average human being, too.
Correct. There's another one, too. I was so relatable in that regard. And they just got to be out of their skulls. another one last night, another big moment. Although I'll be honest with you, you could have knocked me over the feather on this stat. Did you know it was the first ever play-in tournament victory for the Warriors? They were 0-3.
Oh,
had not known that. At any rate, they're now the 7 seed. And what's really remarkable about this now is Curry's 37-point night didn't even lead the Warriors because they got a 38-point night from Jimmy Butler, their midseason acquisition, who has changed the fortunes of the Warriors significantly. Yeah. Now, you could sit here and say they're the 7 seed, Rich, so how can they be anything threatening? Well, in the Western Conference, the difference between the 7 seed and the 3 seed could have been a great, 3-0 week, 4-0 week. That's the difference. And Butler shows up like playoff Jimmy.
Big face coffee.
And I'll tell you what, Warriors get 75 combined from Curry and Butler, and they're going to be tough to beat. Certainly if you're going to fall down by double digits, 20 points at one point, because Butler took over the first quarter while Curry was resting. And then you make the comeback and come up with a 5-second inbounds violation when you need to launch a 3 with 5 seconds to go to try and tie the game. But Curry had this to say about Jimmy Butler now joining this fray. We all know about the big 3 back in the day where it was Draymond, Curry, and Clay, and then Durant joined the party and made them flat out unbeatable. But now it's Curry, Draymond, and Jimmy.
I mean, we've all watched it. Like he was on the Eastern Conference and we on the West. We never got to play against playoff Jimmy, but the idea of just he raises his level based on or at the right time when it's needed the most, and that's why the trade made so much sense for us, because he has that experience, he has that resume, and he proved it. He's proven it since he's been here, but in these last 2 games, you can see a different level of intentionality, and especially just scoring the basketball, because teams are trying to take away some of our pet actions. At the end of the day, you just need somebody that can put the ball in the basket, and he knows how to do that.
38-7-6 was his stat line, and 3 steals on top of it. And the same way that I said that Curry and the Warriors had never won a play-in tournament game, they have never lost a playoff series. The Houston Rockets, they're 4-0 in that regard, now taking on the 2nd seed. And Steve Kerr getting set for that series as the Grizzlies now go home and wait for the winner of tonight's Sacramento and Dallas game. And we'll see how that happens. So, Steve Kerr had this to say about the long journey to this very moment where the Warriors are now in the playoffs, and not just that, but a legitimate threat.
It's a playoff game, even though, it disappears into the ether, as we all know. There's no record of it, but it's a playoff game. And, I tried to downplay it a little bit before the game, but we desperately needed to win this game and get 4 days. Our guys have been basically playing knockout games for about 3 weeks, and one high-level game after another. And so to get this one took 83 games, but we're right where we want to be, which is back in the playoffs, and we've got a chance. But maybe most importantly, we get the time to rest and prepare, because these guys need that desperately right now.
Yeah. Steve Kerr wearing a Harvard basketball shirt. I wonder why he's got Harvard on the mind. Ripped straight from other headlines, I guess. So, what do you think, gents? Do the Rockets now join the Knicks as the Vogue one-and-done top seed home court advantage team entering these playoffs? Yay or nay? Yay or nay?
All due respect to the Rockets, they made an incredible turnaround. The 2 seed.
Oh, you're using past tense.
Well,
They made.
paints a picture of where I'm going to go with this.
Yes, it does.
I'm not going to. I don't bet, but if I did, I wouldn't bet hard-earned American dollars against the Warriors in that first round matchup.
Yeah, Warriors are favored on the series.
Says the man who does
He would
actually
know
bet.
that, yes, I don't know these things, so I
Minus
turned it-
190. I'm looking at a tasty plus 160 Rockets right now. Really like Houston here.
So the Warriors are favored.
Yeah. Well, when you got Steph Curry, I think you've earned
Jimmy
you earned the
buckets,
right to be
right?
favored. The Rockets have been great all year. They're 2 seed for a reason.
Yeah,
Great coach, right? Let's not
Yeah,
put any bones about it. Great coach.
absolutely, one of your guys,
And they got a really nice unit.
young.
We've talked about the Knicks are a massive favorite against the Pistons. You can spin this any way you want, Rich, but they're a massive favorite. Like if the Knicks blow it, it's a huge upset.
I'm not spinning anything.
Well, you're saying, they're the Vogue pick to get upset. Well, they're not. They're 4-1 favorite.
I understand what
favorites.
Las Vegas may have to say, or a fan who's dueling has to say. I
A
get
word
it.
on the street.
Or a drafting king. I get it. But
Yeah.
watch any television show, and everybody's talking about look out for the Pistons. So the Rockets are now the true Vogue favorite to be one and done in these first round of the playoffs. Doesn't matter who's going to come out as the 8th seed, right? I don't think the Cavs are going to be.
No.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show live weekdays from 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern on Roku Sports Channel in the U.S.